I want Chopper's bounty to skyrocket after this arc because he's the only one that can turn Omniverse people back to normal just by slapping them or touching them. Chopper, your bounty to go from 100 berries to 2 billion. I'm not even joking.
I left everything I own in one piece.
Ever since, pirates from all over the world set sail for the Grand Line, searching for One Piece, the treasure that would make their dreams come true.
Yo!
Dreaming. Don't give it up, Luffy. Don't give it up, Zolo. Don't give it up, Nami. Don't give it up, give it up, give it up, give it up, give it up.
Here's how the story goes. We find out by the treasure in the Grand Line. There's no doubt. The pirate whose eye is on it, he'll sing. I'll be king of the pirates. I'm gonna be king.
His name is Luffy.
That's Monkey D. Luffy.
King of the pirates. He's made of rubber.
How did that happen?
Yo ho ho, he took a bite of gum gum. His name's Zolo, he's just like a samurai and a Lady. Nami's not shy. Usopp's doing that marksman thing. Sanji's cooking, Chopper's doctoring.
Set sail for One Piece. It's the name of the treasure in the Grand Line. Set sail for One Piece.
Hey guys, welcome back to Everything Anime Podcast. I'm gonna your host Shinry here at Everything Anime Podcast, covering from anime, manga, video games, TV shows, and everything on the topic we're talking about. Today's video is on chapters of One Piece. I actually forgot the chapter numbers. I will add them to the title. I am very sorry, but it's called Emu, the King of the World. That's right, the King of the World has arrived. We learned that in the previous chapter. I am caught up with the latest chapters of One Piece. I just like lately to collage the videos unless I feel like something really big happened. And we led into something really big the last chapter. We're leading into something even bigger in the next chapter. So I'm gonna like group these together, and I guess I'll put it in the title. Anyway, so we last left off. Emu had just arrived in Elbaf, and everybody's like checked it like, who the is this? It was the fucking devil. And then Chopper can turn demon people or people that are possessed by Omniverse back to normal by simply slapping them. I've heard a theory it's because Chopper has a human fruit, that because that's his like devil fruit, he can just bring out the humanity in people again, which would be really cool, which would be really simple to explain, you know. And plus, Emu would have a nemesis. Chopper's bounty should dramatically rise, you know, from 100 berries to 200 berries or something, you know, get something dramatic. But no, I do think Chopper will have a serious bounty by the time this arc is all over. But yeah, I love the design of Emu. I love his blade. I find his abilities interesting. We also learned something in the current chapters about these blades. But again, that's getting ahead of myself. That's not where these chapters are. But there's something with the blades we're going to learn way later. As he stands before the Straw Hats, Dory and Broggy, he asks, who is the king of this land? It's given. Who else said that? There is an anime, there is a movie that said that. It's escaping me right now, but it was like iconic when it happened. Who is the king of this land? It's escaping me right now. You gonna know it in the comments, you're gonna recognize it, but there was a line, if I can even find it, where somebody shows up and asks who's the king of this world or whatever like that, and you know, they say we don't have a king or something like that, and they got I think it was an anime. A really big anime, I can't remember though. Meanwhile, Saint Summers, who was cut to pieces and in half by Zoro, is being held by the new giant pirates, Dr. Gerd. But once Emu gets a look at the situation, he simply cuts him free before Gerd even realizes what happens. Like, Gerd's fingers are just gone. I think Emu was like, what are you doing? You know, Summers. And Summers like, I just got caught. And he just like cuts her fingers. She's like, what the fuck? Zoro would have been the next to face off against Emu, but Harjuin had stepped in before he could get to him. Before he could get too badly damaged, like obviously Zoro would have got fucked up by this. But one of the giant pirates pushed. I don't know what happened. So Zoro was gonna fight Emu next, or he was about to encounter Emu next. Harjuin's like racing towards him. He's like, "Who the fuck are you? Get off our island!" And before he could get cut the fuck up, another giant pirate pushed Harjuin out the way, and instead got his legs severed off, just like Gerd's fingers. Like it happened in such a quick flash, quick cut. Then he realized it happened. But he would have killed Harjuin if Harjuin had just charged straight at Emu. So Emu thankfully got saved. Zoro rushes in to try to take Emu down in one go, but he's immediately met by one of Emu's strange powers. Apparently, it was his tail that struck Sabu from behind. You remember when Sabu was at the reverie and he was running away with, like, you know, the king of Alabasta on his shoulders and he got stabbed by what we thought was an arrow power? That was fucking Emu's tail, bitch! And we have not seen Emu's demon form. Like, I mean, obviously Emu's a demon, but we know he has, like, a giant form as well. Or maybe he can just make himself giant, as we do learn later. He can make himself from giant to small, so maybe he doesn't have like another form. Maybe he just is a giant demon, or he can just manipulate his size. Also, he can control these miniature balls of flames that are kind of sentient, kind of like Big Mom's powers, but like different. Like, they obviously seem like, you know, demonic, like hell-like creatures. These flames, though, are enough to knock back Harjuan and Zoro in giant explosions of flames. Like, he just flicks like these tiny balls and then boom, like a giant explosion. Which you would expect from a final boss. Like, you know, he ain't got to use his full power. He's just like, flick of the wrist, you know, Tsunade to Naruto's forehead. He refers to his power as Omen, and he can even give it to the other Holy Knights to give them flaming halos on their back. It kind of echoes like Joy Boy's like clouds on his back and like this like circle of flames, you know. Very interesting, and he goes on to explain what Omen is later as well. Saint Summers then flies off to finish his previous mission, which is, you know, recollecting them children, capturing those kids. While everything around them, homes, buildings, trees, all spring to life like Big Mom's powers again, but in demonic form. Like the houses are all, you know, like some Halloween Town shit, you know. I don't know why I did that. Emu then takes flight himself as a warning spreads all over all over Elbaf, that the battle is not over. Though they temporarily save the children, a new enemy has arrived, and obviously that being Emu. They don't know who Emu is. Again, Emu just dropped down out of nowhere. As far as the rest of the world knows, there's the 5 elders, and that's it. There's not supposed to be a king. There's not supposed to be somebody that sits on the throne, which we've already known. We learned that since the beginning of learning about the throne. Like, the throne is supposed to be empty. The empty throne is supposed to represent the 19 countries of the world government that came together, except the 20th, that is, Bibi's ancestor. You know, it's supposed to represent, like, they agree that no king was sit on the throne. As Emu is flying around, he sees the body of the Holy Knight Gunko still frozen in that ice block and flies up and fires off a flaming ball of explosion, hoping to set her free, which we later learn that Ragnar's ice will not melt unless he chooses it to melt, which was a really cool detail. I do like that. And that's actually why Emu even fled out of Gunko's body and showed up himself, because, you know, he couldn't escape that ice. Elsewhere on the island, Scopper, Gavin, and the Straw Hats can feel Emu's haki, and they can feel that it's something otherworldly and dangerous. Like, I think they all go on to say something to the extent of, like, this is unnatural, this doesn't feel right, this is strong, but it's, like, very dangerous. They can tell how bad Emu is. Loki and Ragnar begin stockpiling on food, like Luffy trying to gather their strength, like Goku, like Naruto. They're like, oh, there's a new enemy here. We gotta be ready to fight. And I like that the squirrel is eating that. Or actually, the hammer ate the squirrel fruit. Again, don't ask. Dr. Vegapunk had a gun eat the dog fruit. You know, way back in Alabasta when that was first explained. So you just gotta go with it.
Huh?
この事態で喧嘩してる場合か。あ？こいつの名はラッスー。犬の実モデルダックスフントを食った銃だ。グランドラインの新技術さ。物でも悪魔の実は食えるんだ。
Emu then lands before the other half of the Straw Hats, who have captured and cut up St. Killingham, but he is saved by Emu, once again giving him an omen as well. Sanji goes to attack the giant demon, but gets roundhouse kicked into a giant explosion of flames. So it made it look like, you know, Zoro, Sanji, they're taken out, and that possibly at this point Gunko was saved. But, you know, our boys ain't out for the count just like that. They are the monster trio, okay? They ain't out like that. Though currently, without the monster trio, would be in danger. But thankfully, Loki and Ragnar have regathered their strength and returned to the fight in the nick of time to save them. And Emu says something about, Emu says something to Loki. Or Loki's like, you know, get off my island or something like that. He's come to avenge his father and protect Elbath, which again, love seeing that, Loki redeemed himself. Loki never unredeemed himself. We know the truth about his evil ass mom, not Iris, but the other one, Edred or something like that, Edris. That his father did love him, and like Iris loved him, and Hadrian, she wanted them kids, their kids to be brothers and stuff like that. Really loved Loki's past, and Loki destroying that village to get revenge because like then they poisoned his mama. Loki. Full circle for you, baby. Full circle for you. Love that for you. In the following chapter, we learn that King Harold was 144 years old when he died, but giants don't make it to live to be 300 years old. So generally, he died around 40 years of human age, which is pretty young because when Loki says he died young, but he died at 144, it seems like he lived a long time, but like you said, compared to giants live 300 years, so he got to live barely half his life. And, if a human died before 50 years old, they don't really get to live their full life either, so I do understand that. Emu, however, says he's the one that suffered a great loss that day. Emu's like, oh, I'm the one that lost that day. I lost a powerful ally. King Harold would have been my strongest. King Harold would have helped me win this war. He would have helped me defeat the royal government. King Harold took on Blackbeard, okay? Not Blackbeard. Took on Rox, the pirate, okay? He would have shook the whole war up, However, even Loki and Ragnar, with their powers combined, are easily blocked by Emu's Omen flame. Loki and Ragnar, they go to strike him with their hammer, and their power combined, and Emu just blocks it with a flame. Which again does make sense. This is the final boss, the king of the world. There is no one gonna be higher than Emu. Yeah, we still gotta fight Blackbeard. Yeah, we still gotta fight Sengoku. Yeah, we still gotta fight Akainu. Yeah, we still gotta save Gorp. Yeah, we gotta fight all these other villains. But obviously, Emu's gonna be the top villain that we gotta take down. However, even Loki is confused by his power, so Emu goes on to explain what Omen is. He claims that it is a military might, a power that exists in all things. We learn that Emu can make himself a giant using, this is where you learn he can make himself giant in miniature size. He also uses a flame of divine judgment to pierce through Loki. Again, this is a different Zord. I think it's the same Zord. We learned that there's something about these Zords, again, in the current chapter. Not in these chapters, but in the current chapter, there's something about these Zords. But he goes on to say that it is the nature of man to crave strength, but when it is so easily gained by people, they become corrupted, or thus the omniverse, the reverse effect, the demon forms, they get taken over by that demon side. He says choosing servitude out of self-interest are his covenants. That's how the holy knights aren't demonic. They had that demonic power, but they're not controlled by Emu, or they're not turned into demons because they choose to do this out of self-interest, or they choose to serve him, hoping to get the power, whether over being forced into getting that power. And that's how you get the power, but you keep your mind. And he says to achieve one's goal is Omen itself. So basically he's saying, if you can achieve this power by yourself, that's Omen. Omen is achieving your goals without anybody's help. So I guess Goldie Roger becoming the king of the pirates, he had Omen too, because Goldie Roger did it without a devil fruit. Goldie Roger beat all these pirates without a devil fruit, without a single devil fruit. And he never ran from Gorp. Big Mom Kaido ran from Gorp. Maybe even Rox ran from Gorp. But, and Whitebeard might have ran from Gorp, but no, Whitebeard didn't run from Gorp. Whitebeard got his ass knocked out by Gorp. That's what it was. Big Mom and Kaido running for their lives. Whitebeard tried to stand up to Gorp, and Gorp knocked his ass out. A young Gorp, mind you. Maybe old Gorp still can do it, though. Don't underestimate old Gorp. But, that's that. He then goes on to say that these three form the trinity that he calls domination. And once again, we have 3 in One Piece. 3 guns on Blackbeard. 3 guns, 3 claw marks on Shanks' face, 3 devil fruit types. The number 3 is big in One Piece, okay? I don't know what it's going to lead to, but I do think it's going to lead to Blackbeard being a Cerberus. Watch my Blackbeard and Cerberus video if you haven't seen it before. He goes on to say that he is a god, but locally rightfully calls him the devil, to which Emu mocks him and says, what's the difference? Bitch, first of all, God is not the devil. And I know you think you a god because, all them celestial dragons call themselves gods. Bitch, Emu, I can't wait for somebody to slap the shit out you. And somebody does eventually. We're going to get to that too. We're then going to tease the Joy Boy's face again, laughing. And I'm curious if we're finally going to get to see what this character looks like. I assumed in the current chapter we get to see Joy Boy's real face. But I'm assuming if there's a flashback coming up again. We're not done with flashbacks. By the end of this, we lead into a flashback about Brook. And I'm assuming at some point we have to get a flashback between Joy Boy and Emu, obviously. There's a relationship there that we have not seen. But Emu also seems to hold some kind of resentment as he screams like Joy Boy's name. He's like, "Isn't that right, Joy Boy?" I'm like, okay, and this apparently is not Joy Boy's form. I mean, this is Luffy Joy Boy, but we don't know what Joy Boy looks like. You know, it's like Naruto and Naruto's dad. Like, they look the same in a way, but like a little similarities, a little difference, a little age, they look a little different. Meanwhile, we see Luffy, like Ragnar, Loki before, stomping his face to get his energy back. Luffy can feel the energy from Emu. He's like, oh man, a new enemy just showed up. I have to eat all this food. I have to get my energy back up. While he's momentarily distracted, Loki hits him with his hammer and sends him flying into a wall. And it seems like Emu took some serious damage, but Emu's just like chilling. He's just like, oh, you hit me. You know, it's like a little bit of blood dropping down his face, but like, not much. And then, like, you know, we do know that when he arrives on Elbaf, he coughed up blood. So he's weaker outside of the Holy Land. We do know that. And when the final battle takes place, obviously, you know, he may have been his home turf and he'll be stronger. But outside of that, they say he's weaker. That's what the 5 elders had said. Loki then transforms into his draconic state and seems to be charging a fire blast, to which we can see fear in Emu's face, or at least it looks like fear. But again, when you learn something about Emu that that's barely going to look like it phases him, it's crazy. But like, Loki's like, okay, I'm finished this in one blow. And Emu's looking like terrified for now. But again, I'm like, there ain't no way the final boss is going to be defeated right here and there. But then Oda throws more lore in our face, talking about the name Thorenheim now. I'm not sure what he... I mean, obviously, you know, we're referencing like, you know, Loki, you know, Greek mythology, Cerberus, you know, Elbaf being basically Asgard. But I'm like, what the hell is Thorenheim? Like, this is a whole new lore you're throwing at us. Emu survives the blast, but he calls Loki's dragon form a traitor. Perhaps since Emu created the devil fruits himself, he's calling like and he knows all the dragon fruits, he's calling the dragon fruit that Loki ate himself a traitor, or he's calling like, or alluding to Ragnar being a traitor, or again, like there might be a relationship with Ragnar, Joy Boy, and Emu. We don't know this whole backstory yet. We do know that he knows Ragnar, though, which is the hammer that the squirrel ate. Again, the squirrel ate the squirrel fruit. And again, just go with it. It's One Piece. Loki, once again, tries to finish Emu with one more blast, but Emu seems to deflect it with the power of his own. And this really cool panel that I'm going to show off for a few seconds. Again, Oda is great with detail. I really love manga panels. Even though it's a still image, you can just feel like the battle's happening in front of you. I love that about manga. I really, really fucking do. We also then get a shot of Jewelry Bonnie, who I forgot was here for a minute. I remember Vegapunk and Bonnie came with us to Elbaf, and so did Kuma, but it's been a while since we've seen them do anything. Bonnie says that she's not going to fight this time, and Vegapunk informs that, like, yeah, I'm your guardian. I'm not going to let you fight again. Like, you're staying out of this. This is above us. We also see that Sanji's here and it survived the Emu's Omen blast, and he was even taunted by Killingham, who has an Omen now, like St. Summers, which we already saw, because, you know, that's what Emu had gave both of them before he flew off again. Killingham is out to recapture the children now that Emu is here and granted him more power. So, actually messed up something I said earlier. St. Summers is tasked with getting the ship. Killingham is tasked with getting the children back to the ship. So, that's what the two are doing right now. Also, he was an asshole. When he, like, flew off, he literally jumped off of Sanji's stomach and flew off into the air. I mean, obviously, he's a bad guy, but I just thought that was mad disrespectful. Sanji says that it's his job to stop him because this island is the island that Luffy and Usopp have been dreaming about. The island of big, beautiful women, which is totally not what they came here to see. Usopp came here to see giants and become a warrior of the sea and become a strong man. And Luffy just loves giants and new islands. And then you just see Vegapunk and Bonnie just like sweat drop, like, what the fuck? That is not what they came here for. And even if it was, like, why is that what you worried about? Like, the whole island's in danger. Meanwhile, in the Owl Library, Saul and Robin find I guess his name is Bilub. Basically the Owl, who not only protected all the books from burning in the fire set by St. Summers previously, a few chapters ago that we probably talked about a bit ago, but he also seems to have some sort of secret of his own. They're like, how did you get down here, Bilub? And you seem to have a secret of your own, in which the Owl like kind of makes a side eye. So I don't know if there's a twist with the Owl. And then on top of that, when are we going to explain what the voice history was? Can we get there already? Maybe that's the backstory we're waiting for. Like Emu, you know, Joy Boy, Ragnar, and then all of the voice history. Maybe we're waiting for a chapter like that to explain all this, because I'm like, when you keep talking about these books of Oda, and you know, we've been teased about it. We've been teased about what the D is. We know it's not Davy now, but like, when are we going to learn about a boy country? You know, I'm ready to get there. Before we get answers to that, any of that, of course, we're going to look at Saint Summers, who again has now a giant ship and is going by Super Summers. He's like, call me Super Summers, and I got a super ship for all the children. Hey, Killingham, bring all those children here and recapture them and bring them to this ship. Elsewhere, Chopper is treating all the victims including Dr. Gerd of the New Giant Pirates, whose fingers were cut off by Emu. He says, like, you know, like, this is a clean cut. Like, there's no damage or nothing like that, so I can just easily stitch these back on. But you can't fight immediately. He's also healing up the parents. You know, everybody got injured, like, trying to protect their children from the original battle. So, again, this fight's going on for a good little minute. Zoro is with Goldberg, rushing back into the battle as well, with the other survivors also surviving his wounds with Emu. No, not Goldberg. No, yeah, Goldberg. Gerd is the doctor, and Goldberg, I think, is like just another pirate on the ship. There's a lot of names, honestly. We then stop with St. Killingham and St. Summers having a conversation via transponder cell where we get tidbits of important information. The first is that St. Killingham says he accidentally summoned a sleep tempest that even he's afraid of to recapture the children, which is kind of funny because obviously his sleep tempest, what he's doing is he's creating dream monsters that the children were afraid of, and I guess this one is particularly one he's been afraid of, and all the other Holy Knights, because even St. Summers is like, why'd you summon that one? That gave me a little bit of laugh, just knowing that he's scared of something. They also mentioned that Gunko might be dead because she was possessed by Emu for a long time. But I doubt that, because if that's the case, what we see in a later flashback would kind of contradict that, and especially what we're going to lead into. But again, we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves. St. Summers also mentions that what they need and what they need to destroy are here on Elbab. I'm assuming he means he needs to destroy Luffy/Joy Boy, and what they need is Loki's Devil Fruits and also Ragnar's Devil Fruit. I'm assuming that's what we're talking about. I don't know what he means by what we need and what we need to destroy, but it's in bold and black, so that means Oda wants you to specifically know, like, this is important information, this is important lore. We didn't get to see what the sleep tempest is that even St. Killingham is afraid of, and it's called the Rain God of Zaza. I don't know anything about this character. I don't know anything about this, like, mythical beast, but it's like a rain monster that uses water to recapture the children, and, like, is, like, absorbing them, and obviously you can't cut it because it's water, and it's threatening to bring the children back to St. Summer's new ship. As this is happening, Zoro and Sanji pass each other and yell at each other, don't mess this up! Because obviously, we got to stop Killingham, we got to knock him out to end the sleep tempest, and then we got to stop St. Summers, because we already destroyed the ship the first time, I got to destroy another ship again. So we got our own individual battles to take care of. Luffy will deal with Emu. Don't fuck this up. I love that they had that relationship, and I love that, like, that's what they say to each other. It makes perfect sense. Back at the battle with Emu, Loki and Ragnar seem to be cornered, it seems to be confirmed either this is what Emu's after or this is what he meant to destroy, or both. Yeah, he's talking to Loki and Ragnar, and he says something that kind of confirms that this is what he's after, or this is what he wants to destroy. But he says if he can't make them his slaves, he would just have to destroy them. So I'm assuming, like, this is both what he wants, and if he can't have it, he's going to destroy it. I think that's what it's trying to say. We then get a pretty dope panel of him slicing a giant blade at Loki and Ragnar. Again, another panel to show off for a few seconds. Again, very fucking cool. Very fucking cool panels. Oda, I love your drawings. While that's all happening, back at the village, the parents aren't just going to let their kids be taken away from them, even for a second time, even if it means they have to die. And I love this. I love that the parents are so willing to, like, die for the children. Any parent should be like that. And I've heard so many stories. And again, it was so heartbreaking the first time when the parents are like, you know, we'll fall to our death together. I'm going to hold you the whole time. And, like, Oda is so good at tugging at the heartstrings. It's really fucking good. It's really fucking powerful. But yeah, the parents are cut up. And like I said, Chopper just healed them enough to, like, where they could survive. He didn't fix them up enough where they could fight again. Zaza, the rain god, isn't phased, though, and she managed to capture 7 of the children so far, and including, once again, Scopper Gabin's son, but thankfully, Sanji has arrived. Sanji made it to the scene. He's going to somehow save the children. I didn't know how, I didn't know when, and again, there's a joke with that, too, when we get to a later chapter, but that's where we're at currently. We then flash over again to another group of Straw Hats where Brook is catching up with Nami Usopp about his relationship with Gunko. He's like telling him, like, they're like, what's your relationship with that girl that tried to kill us, Brook? Why are you trying to save her? And he says that if this girl is the same woman he knew, she would be around 77 years old by now. She was a princess. And I remembered, like, in one of the One Piece movies, Brook made a joke that, like, his hair, that he's in his 90s or something like that, like he's 90 years old. So, I mean, it's currently, like, 2 years ago when we got Brook, he was 88. But yeah, the flashback does confirm that that's Brook's age. Brook is 90, and you know she would have been 77 years old, instead of a 13-year difference. We then get an echo of another number 3, as Brook explains it was her who freed them from her own devil fruit arrow powers, and she seems to have 3 personalities inside of her. Now I thought it'd be 2, but obviously I guess it'd be Shuri, the Omni, you know, burst of her, the Holy Knight, one that subjugated herself to that, and then or chose to be a servant, and then when Emu took her over. But again, the echo of 3, I'm telling you, Blackbeard is going to be a Cerberus. Watch on Blackbeard Cerberus video if you don't believe me. Brook is conflicted about whether they should save her or leave her to die, and that's when we get more, or start more, of Brook's backstory. So, I am going to say, before I continue, I was on the ones that assumed, or theorized, Brook might have had a daughter. I assumed this was Brook's daughter that we just never had heard about. But there were people out there already confirming, oh, Brook always had a daughter. It was always meant. No, the fuck it wasn't. Because this is the first time we ever heard about this. The only thing we knew about Brook was Laboon and the crew and how they died, and he was a magician. That's all we ever knew about Brook, you know. And he still wanted to go back to the first island or Red Line and see Laboon again. That was Brook's whole motivation. We knew nothing about Brook's backstory. There was no tease about Brook ever having a daughter. That was never teased, ever. And again, it's not Brook's daughter. I'm going to tell you that now. He will say something in the current chapters that he thinks of her like his daughter, but it was never his daughter. Or more like daughter-in-law, because she has a mother and a father, which Brook knew and loved as well. So, maybe little sister would be a better way to say that, I guess, when we get to that chapter. But anyways, yeah, I hate when people say, oh, something's always been confirmed, and then, like, when it's, like, not revealed to not be, they'll probably just delete their video and be, not fess up to, like, oh, that's why you say theorize. You don't say you confirmed until you know. I said Blackbeard is Cerberus theory. If Blackbeard Cerberus is confirmed, I will, you know, go back and use that video as references, you know. But anyways, we start to learn more about Brook before the musical pirates in a land called Esperia. It was a land of music full of workshops for all kind of musical instruments. I guess it's like a land like music, and you know they had all these shops where you can make instruments, buy instruments, stuff like that. Very, very cool, and would fit Brook's personality. So back in the past we go, 70 years ago, when Brook would have been about 20 and Princess Gunko would have been about 7, which we later learned her name is Princess Shuri. That's her name. We learned that 70 years ago, Brook was a captain, and he even had a Joy Boy-like personality, singing and dancing and bringing cheers all across Esperia. There's a part where, like, Brook's jumping across the side with this, like, museum or violin, and it reminds me of Joy Boy, like, jumping through the sky, stuff like that. I really love that. That was a great little, like, you know, not echo, but callback or like homage. I guess homage is the word. We then get to see Brook at 20 years old, and we learned that he was a leader of a raider squad in Esperia and made friends with Gunko, whose real name was Princess Shuri. Like, obviously, and again, we're going to get to that, their friendship and stuff like that. The next video we're going to do is about Brook's backstory. This is mainly talking about Emu, but again, where it ends is why we're cutting it off there. And so, oh yeah, I've already talked about Brook's, you know, daughter or whatever. Like, oh no, this is why I was talking about this. So I remember originally that Brook had a daughter. Theories was going around, and I was also one that theorized that. But because Shuri isn't related to Brook, we learned that he's a servant of her father, King Levin, and his wife. I forgot her name. His wife's name is Kendall. And Brook was secretly in love with her mother, or maybe not so secretly as he pronounces his love constantly to her mother, Kendall. He's like, oh, I would love to be with her. And the king is like, King Levin is like, hey, you trying to kill me to get with my wife? He's like, no, I'll just wait till you're dead. Obviously, you'll die before that. When you're dead, I'll take her as my own wife. And I was just like, how fucked up. Only Brook can get away with that kind of humor. But again, we learned their backstory again in Brook's backstory in the next video we'll do. But Brooke is like, no, I'll just wait till you die, which is, again, a hilarious thing to say out loud. Shuri says that instead, when she grows up, she'll marry Brooke. Like, you can't marry my mom, you can just marry me. But Brooke makes a comeback. He's like, ugh, I don't want no wife that's a runny nose. Which, again, not only gets a hilarious reaction from her, like Shuri just thinks that's funny. First of all, Shuri's 7 years old. But the father's like, hey, don't diss my daughter like that. I love this relationship that they have. And obviously, kids, they just say the silliest things, and Brooks is playing around with her. Like, again, I think he thinks of her like a sister, but her saying that, I guess, would make a weird relationship. But they're not related at all. Like, he's a servant to the family. We are then alerted from a guard that the kingdom is under attack, but the king doesn't appear too worried, as he knows it's all under control. King Levin's like, oh, the city's under attack? Oh, don't worry about it. Also, oh, no, the king is worried about it, but Brooke is like, oh, don't worry about it. Also, we learned that they about come for King Levin's wife, and their leader, Dawn, demands that she be his wife. But the reason why Brooke isn't worried, even though they come to, steal King Candle, or Queen Candle, is that, one, she can take care of herself, but two, Brooke is like, they didn't even notice I had already cut them down before they arrived at the port. They just hadn't noticed. And that's when we get another version of three verse humming, arrow not slash. It's like when Brooke cuts you, but you can walk 10 steps before you realize you got cut, and then you're slashed.
My goodness. Yeah. It looks like you came to this island after all.
How did you get all the way up here?
I jumped, of course. I'm quite light. Since you're here already, I suppose there's no point in holding back. Yeah. I'll tell you everything I know about this island.
Who are you? Huh? You're not a zombie? Does that mean you're with these pirates?
Hold on. What are you?
Worry not, my friend. I'm not going anywhere. I'll put an end to this promptly.
Huh?
Three-verse humming.
Arrow not slash!
But, so I guess this is like his earlier version, or like weaker version of it. But again, still very cool, because as they're waiting outside, like this like musical theater, waiting for Queen Candle to come out, they all get cut up. They're like, oh, when did we get cut? And Brooks just way back there talking to King Levin's like, oh yeah, they all got cut a long time ago. We then get to see the queen herself, Candle, the mother of Shuri, and the wife of Levin, and we learn that she's the leader of the Raider Pirates. So Brooke is the captain of the Raider Pirates. She's the leader, or I guess first mate of the Raider Pirates. She's the captain or the leader, and then she's the wife of Levin and the mother of Shuri, and Brooke's obviously in love with her. We also learned that she and Brooke are the great stars of this era. Being the two leaders of the Raiders. Now, I'm currently caught up in One Piece, so I can't theorize. Again, I would have made these videos a long time ago, but if you're already caught up in One Piece, you already know what's going on. But I can say where Brooke's backstory goes, I have a lot more questions, and we'll talk about that as we get to it. So for now, I'm going to end this video here. I'll see you guys in the next one, and I'll talk to you soon. Talk later. Bye. Hey guys, this video was sponsored by me, the author of the Shinry series, the Chronicles of Wayne, and Monsterverse. So I figured I'd do this outro a little bit different by showing you guys what you guys will be checking out. So, the Shinry series starts with Book 1, Shobu Samurai Project Aryoku. 10 years after the death of his parents, Shobu Samurai returns home, seeking vengeance, but instead faces a choice to save his home from shadow creatures, blood beasts, and an organization once thought dead. Shinry's Shobu Samurai starts at $9.99. And if you love anime, manga, Naruto, One Piece, Bleach, Yu Yu Hakusho, Fairy Tail, Shaman King, Rave Master, Zatch Bell, anything like that, the Shinry series is definitely the series for you. You'll definitely want to check it out. The Sword of Light is probably the thickest one so far. And then these books are 2. This is Enter the Dread Zone Tournament. And the series original ending, Arado, the Legendary Conjuring Master. So, and I'll just show you guys some of the covers. Really proud of all of these. But I hope you guys check it out. If you don't like that, I also have the current published books for the Chronicles of Wayne, Love Be Damned, Cotton Candy, Full Moons, Fabled Lovers, A Cursed Virgin's Bite. If you go where monsters dance, red will reign over your house. Love Be Damned. Now, the Chronicles of Wayne is about a geeky guy or a nerdy guy in high school. His senior year, he has a crush on the hottest guy in school because, of course, he does. He's only got one best friend, and her name is Barb. Well, the hottest guy in school turns out to be a werewolf. And to make the story more interesting, he bites Wayne and turns Wayne into the first ever wolfman in the last 10 years. And because of that, it was also a sacred law that wolfmen should never be created. I don't want to get into too much of the Chronicles of Wayne without spoiling it, but I can tell you it's very short. This one sells for $6.99, and Love BK's right after it. The ending of this trilogy, Love Be Liberated, comes out in October. So I'm going to definitely do a more full in-depth review of this one. But yeah, it's an LGBT fantasy fiction story about werewolves, vampires, white witches, a dark warlock, and, well, many, many more surprises to come. So if you guys like to read, I definitely recommend. These are all the books so far in the Shinry series, except for Shinry's Beginning. I do have that one, but it's just not here with me. But yeah, I appreciate a like, support, or just a review on Amazon. Either way, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a